Hey, my fellow alchemists, it's AJ. Welcome back to my channel. And if this is your first time here, welcome to my channel. I have a very special guest today. She goes by the name of Andrea Adjoa, and she is a very dear friend of mine. It was such a pleasure doing this interview. It was such an eye-opening experience. Everybody's journey is different, of course, but our experiences, they all, and the human experience, but specifically we're going to speak about the Black woman experience today, and the mommy experience and all of that, and just the similarities in our journeys. And it was such a beautiful conversation. This could have went on forever. Literally, I could have had this conversation and it could have lasted in at least 3 parts for this video. So I hope you guys enjoy this interview as much as I enjoyed it. And I will put all of her information below. Buy products from her. I got my black sage sitting right here. I cannot wait to use this. Oh my goodness. And my waist beads that I'm going to try on. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Comment down below if you want to add to it or share about your journey. Follow her on socials and follow me on socials if you're not. Miss Poetic 08. That's MIZZPOETIC 08. And also AJ Steps of Alchemy on Instagram, and I'm on TikTok now. So you can follow AJ Steps of Alchemy on TikTok as well. Hope you guys enjoy. See you soon. Hey guys, I wanted to introduce you to a great friend of mine, Andrea Adjoa, and her company, the Black Witches Brew. She is a mom. She is an entrepreneur. She is doing a damn thing. She is a witch, and I love it. And we're going to speak on all of that and give you guys some great advice today. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here. I am so excited to discuss all spiritual things. Yes. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Yes.
So to get started, let's get your definition of a witch.
So my definition of a witch, and I understand that there are multiple versions. My definition of a witch is similar to like a good witch, you know, a creator of magic, a creator of beautiful things. So that is my version of a witch. I create beautiful things.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
That's such a beautiful definition.
Yes.
Because I have a similar definition, and it almost aligns with the alchemist of my business, because you want to create things, and I feel like being a witch is literally utilizing the tools that you have on earth and the tools within you to manifest and make things great and to create. And I have gotten a lot of backlash and stigma on being a witch and like trying to fully embrace it. And go public with it per se. So how has that journey been for you?
So when I started my journey 5 years ago, and so when I started, I got a lot of like backlash from like my family and things, and they would call me a witch or think I do witchcraft, and I always tell them I do not. But I think it's because in the community, things that are foreign or uncommon, people love to put like, a bad connotation on that. And so that is why I think it's so like frowned upon, because anything that people really aren't knowledgeable about, or, have never experienced it. And in so many ways with like, as African Americans, spirituality and sage and rituals and honoring our ancestors and all of those things. When our ancestors were from Africa, this is what they did. And so because we came over here against our will, we lost our culture and our practice. And what I appreciate about like our generation and the generations after us is we're really embracing African spirituality and going back to the bases and kind of like, something just doesn't seem right. I need to kind of like look into this. Right? And so we have been going on a different path. And for me, I'm very, happy to see that, especially when like, I have some of my younger family members or younger women that I know, and they come to me with their questions. They want to talk about it because it's like, they can feel something spiritually
Yes.
pulling them to something different.
Yes.
So for me, I can appreciate that. And to be honest, when people do, speak negatively about being a witch or speak negatively about spirituality, I just take it more so as they just don't understand.
Yes.
And so I'm big on, let's have a discussion. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the similarities between spirituality and religion.
Yes.
And because in so many ways, they go hand in hand. Just like, there are different religions. African culture, they have their own deities or Orisha goddesses or gods. And so I just like to open up the conversation, and just discuss it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I feel like, especially as you stated, us being African Americans, and I feel like African traditional religions get demonized because of, our past and our history, and they wanted to wash it away.
Yeah.
And now when we speak to our ancestors and things of that nature, it's automatically seen as us being a heathen or, not believing in God or some demonic or anything like that. And it's kind of disheartening. But I realized that I was different back in, I want to say, middle school. I was about 11, and then I found out that I was clairvoyant.
Okay.
And I started having these dreams, and they were premonitions. And so I had a dream about both of my uncles passing away 5 days before they passed away each. And it freaked me out. And then after people would pass, I would see them in my dreams, and we would have conversations. And then I would go to people and say certain things, and they would look at me totally crazy, like, how did you even know that? Because you weren't supposed. I only talked to one person about that, and they are not here. So how did you know that? And it freaked me out. Like, and I was having I was having like astral projection and all these experiences, and it was just so much for young me that I literally prayed every day, like, I am not ready for this. Please, whatever gift curse, whatever it is, I don't want it. And so I prayed it away, and it went away for a while. And then as I got older, I would start to have these dreams again. And I would, have these experiences, and it's like the universe would just give me signs and these synchronicities, and I'm like, okay, I hear you, I see you, what is it? And after I started fully embracing it, things have, my blessings have come in abundance, and I can manifest things, and I feel more powerful, and I feel more in control of my own life. And I love it. It is truly liberating. I love it.
And it's so interesting that you speak about the dreams, because, I too have dreams. And even when I was a child, I would have that dreams. And I can agree with that, because I was just talking to my dad yesterday, and I was just telling him, when I was a child, I always felt so different. And my mom would always tell me that I was different. And so, again, at a young age, we have high school and peer pressure and things like that. And so you're like, okay, I do feel different. So how do I heal that? How do I handle that? What do I do? And as a child, you're like, okay, maybe I, in so many ways, I go into the masses, do what they do. You know what I'm saying? Try to fit in, right? And then you still feel so different, right? And I, as a young adult, and I was between the ages of 18 and 21, I went through so many things. And I had what I call 3 experiences where I personally felt God's presence, felt that I needed to do a change. And when those 3 things happened to me, it just clicked. Hey, whatever you're doing isn't working. And maybe in so many ways you need to find your purpose. Right? And eventually, I got into a relationship. I became a mom. And for me, it was right the moment where I had my second daughter.
Okay.
That I just noticed I was very just depleted in a way. And I needed to do something different, So I started going to therapy. And then going to therapy then led me into me not liking my therapist that much. Because some of the things that she told me to do or to try just didn't like sit right in my spirit.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's not it. And so I just started to just kind of flow into spirituality and, receive my downloads and do the things. And then naturally what I call like baby witches,
Mm-hmm.
you start with a crystal. People say, oh, go get a crystal. You
Yeah.
start with a crystal. And then after that, you're like, okay, I got the crystal. It's supposed to do the thing.
Right.
Why is it happening? But then I really started to get into like self. So I like pulled back and I started to strip away things that I felt didn't serve me. Yeah. So like I used to be big on like, and again, I by no means am against weave or anything. It's just not for me anymore. But I started to like, I used to wear weave a lot, the bundles and the fake lashes and the makeup and so one year I just got to a point that I just took away all of those things.
Nice.
And that's when I started to feel like myself. And I found that sometimes when we do, certain things, it helps us mask who we are.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to be really raw and real with yourself and love yourself for where you are. Right?
Yes, that's the big one.
And so that's what I started to do. And then I started to do more so like my shadow work.
Yes.
From childhood trauma, figuring out things that I like about myself, things that I don't like about myself, things that I felt I needed to work on as a person, and also removing toxic and negative people from my space, right? And what I learned is that when you start a journey, God, the universe, your spirit guides, your ancestors, they will remove things that no longer serve your higher purpose.
Yes.
And so at first you get so frustrated, like, I want this. Like, you can love somebody, a relationship, you can love a job, whatever it is, right? And you're like, okay, why did I lose this? But in time, you learn why. And it's all for the greater good. I take any lesson that I've learned up until this point, I receive it. And I'm very happy that I went through it. Because had I not went through those things, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Yes.
And so I'm again, I am, spiritual journeys, they are continuous.
Yes.
It's never ending. You vibrate, okay, all right, about to go to another level.
Right.
and you will find that your world shifts, And so I just know that a part of the spiritual journey is healing. It's working on your shadow work. It's owning who you are, and putting yourself out there, right?
Yes.
And the right people will gravitate, and the people that aren't the people for you.
Fall off.
Yes. And so it's just because for me, going through my spiritual journey also got me to a place of self-love and loving myself in all aspects, mind, body, spirit, everything, the good and the bad parts of me.
Yes.
And I don't, for what we may feel is bad, somebody else may not feel as bad. So for me, it's just the place I've gotten and just owning my gifts, and doing what Spirit and God tells me to do with those things.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I love it. Oh my goodness. This is so beautiful. I love this conversation. Well, you kind of talked about your self-growth journey and your mental health. And with the mental health, I noticed, so for my journey, in my early 20s, I would say I was functionally depressed. And so I drank. I was known as the turn-up queen. And I just threw parties all the time. I worked 3 jobs, and then I would go throw parties. But it was like whenever I was alone, it was a wrap. Like, and so it got to the point where I was suicidal, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, where I wanted to go. And I had a lot of toxic people around me, and I was just in a toxic environment, and that I partially created. But yeah, so I had all of that, and then I started fading out of that, and I started my shadow work, and I started realizing things that I was doing and habits that I had and mindsets that I was kind of practicing, and I'm like, this doesn't serve me whatsoever. Like, and so I had to really evaluate. And one of my favorite terms is taking inventory. And I have to take inventory of everything in my life consistently. Like, if I don't do it on a weekly basis, it has to be like a monthly basis, because so many things change. Like, the only thing inevitable in life is change. And so I have to make sure, like, okay, is this on par with what I want? Like, my goals, long term, short term, everything. And then, so I started doing that, and then things started shifting for me. And then I met my man, and I got pregnant. And so I didn't plan on a pregnancy.
It does pop up, honey.
Okay.
No, that wasn't it. I wasn't ready.
Listen. And then that was so hard for me because I had a high risk pregnancy. And I was in the hospital for about 3 months. And my last stint in the hospital was like a month, almost a month and a half. And I was on complete bed rest. And they had like complete autonomy over my life. They told me if I could get up and take a shower that day, if I could eat. Like, when I could get up and use the restroom, I had to ask for permission. And it's like, I don't have control over my life whatsoever. And I was so depressed. And then I wanted to have the natural birth, and I wanted all of this stuff. And they're like, no, you have to have a C-section, and this and that and this. And it was like, I literally had no control. And it was to the point where those suicidal thoughts started coming in. And they started off as nightmares of me dying while giving birth. And then they turned into fantasies. And I started feeling more relief when I woke up from those dreams. And I'm like, something is wrong. That's not okay. And so I had to reel it back and really think about like what's going on. But then at the same time, I'm like, I have to stay strong and keep my baby alive, because that was the main thing. They were saying she wasn't going to survive. So I had her. They ended up sending me home early, and then I came back 5 days later in labor, had her, and then she was in the NICU for like 2 months. So again, I pushed my own things to the wayside, and then it's just serving her, like, and then it's making sure everybody's happy, then answering family questions, and then not getting rest, and then pumping and breastfeeding and trying to latch on and doing everything, but like figuring out and tending to myself. And I like just broke. Like, I just completely broke. And that's when she came home, and then it was harder when she was home than when in the NICU. And so I'm like, I don't get any sleep. I don't have a life. Like, and then people are mad because they wanted to come visit, and it's like, no, her immune system is not developed. And so now I'm like fighting family, and then on top of that, people didn't show up to the baby shower like I wanted, and all these people who I thought were like this close to me, I realized weren't at all. And all the smoke screens just started falling down at once, and I was overwhelmed. And so I ended up taking the Depo shot, and then I gained a lot of weight. I had a heart attack scare. And that
was from the Depo?
Yes. Okay. And then I bled every day for November. That's 11 months. For 11 months straight. And I was off of 2 shots, and I would have migraines, and I had all these side effects, and all they told me is I would gain like 5 to 10 pounds. And so I'm telling them like, no, something is wrong with me. Like, and they're like, oh no, you're fine. It'll fade out. Your body is just regulating itself. It never did. And so I stopped everything. Like, I got on the pill, and that same day I got on the pill is the same day my period stopped. And so I'm like, okay, so we're gonna get the hormones together. But I'm like, I can't just take the pill anymore, like, because that was making me wacky. And so I'm like, let me just stop everything now that I've stopped with that, and let me go ahead and find some natural ways to go about this. And then that started my natural journey. And then I'm like, okay, well, since I'm eating good, I might as well like kind of work out.
Yeah.
And then that started my fitness journey. And then from there, it's like, okay, my spirit needs something better. And then my spiritual journey hopped on right after, and it was like a trifecta. And then ever since then, it's like, oh my God, like everything is working. And like I got heavy into personal development and everything. And then that's what prompted the whole YouTube thing. And it's like I eased my way into personal development, but then something still was unfulfilled. And then I found witchcraft. And so that seeing the different, because witchcraft is like the generalized statement, and it's so many, like there's so many things under the umbrella of witchcraft. And it's like, okay, I could do Ifa, I could do, you know, like I can be a plant witch. It's so many different avenues I can go with that. And so I started delving into the different aspects. And then I just recently went to a hoodoo festival. And they taught about hoodoo, voodoo, Ifa, and all types of divinations. And it was so eye-opening, because voodoo specifically, I had so many negative stigmas with that and stereotypes. And I've learned so much. And I've learned to appreciate voodoo so much. And just the community and the aspects of it as a whole, and how it came about out of oppression. And so now it's like, okay, I find little bits and pieces that serve me out of each divination, and then I practice those. So I do tarot now, and I don't do it on a daily basis. And I know a lot of people kind of shun me for doing tarot, because when you speak to the spirits, a lot of people don't know who they're summoning and what kind of energy they're bringing in. So that's why things like sage is so important, and cleansing your space and making sure that you are in the right mind frame before you even start any kind of practice. Because whatever is in your heart is what you will attract.
It is. Say that. Yes, honey.
So just know, when you guys start to practice these things, if you do that, do your research. One, know who you're summoning, know your divination, know, you know, have a clean mindset and a clean heart, because if negativity begets negativity, and darkness begets darkness.
Yes, it does.
And so please just keep in mind all of that before you practice.
Yes. I think that's why, you know, I'm big on like my home and my space.
Yes.
Right? I'm also big on, I'm not like a hugger.
Yes.
Okay? I tell people all the time, unless I know you on a very personal level, and to know people, okay, I tell people it's a difference in knowing someone and in knowing someone on a personal level.
Yes.
And so if I don't know you on a personal level, I don't want to hug. I would prefer you not touch me.
Yes.
And some people get very offended by that. And I tell people all the time, I don't know your energy, and I'm a very empathic person.
Yes.
So I can have moments with people, and I can feel that their energy just doesn't sit right with my energy. And after that, it will take days for me to come back up.
Yes.
And so I'm big on that. I also, like, again, in my home, you know, I'm big on my Florida waters, my sages, my salts, just because you have to watch the type of, you know, energies you bring into your home.
Yes.
Because again, after somebody leaves, sometimes your house, your energy in your home changes.
Yes.
Or people that I say don't have the best vibes or the best energy, when they come into my space, my home can make them very uncomfortable. And I notice, well, you kind of dealing with something.
Yeah.
You know? So it is true. Before you embark on this journey, before you do the things, you also have to be at a certain vibration.
Yes.
Right? Because if you aren't, then it can have a negative effect. Like I, was discussing with one of my, what I call my witchy friends, and we were talking about like shrooms, right? If you weren't at a certain vibe, now I've never done shrooms, it's not my thing, but I do know people who have. And if you aren't on a certain vibration and you embark upon that journey,
you will have a bad trip.
You will have a bad trip, and in so many ways you can come back with a negative energy or a negative spirit or a demonic spirit, and your life can change dramatically. So that's why they say before you do that, you have to be on a certain vibration. So before you do anything spiritually, you have to align yourself. You have to do the work. You have to also be raw and real. I think, like, I've always tell people that if I can't be in a space that I can be raw, real, and put myself on a table, then I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
Because that showing up as raw and real is the best thing that you can do for yourself, because anything outside of that is doing a disservice to yourself, to your spirit.
Yes.
And so it is true that when we start any journey, weight loss, spiritual, whatever it is, that mind, that body, and that spirit have to be connected. Because that's the only way those things will work.
Yes.
And so I know, like, yesterday I did a live and I was discussing like my weight loss journey and how, and people like, how do you handle cravings? I practice mindfulness. When I have a moment of like, today I would love some pizza, or, something that I know is not good for me, I will go and I'll meditate, or I'll pull out my journal and I'll write, or I will get a coloring book and I'll color.
Nice.
I flip my mind that no, I don't need that today. And when you align your mind, your body, and your spirit, your body will then start to tell you what it doesn't like, right? So I too was on birth control. I did the pills, and I would always have headaches, right? I would always feel very hormonal, very emotional. That first week, I'd be somewhere mad, crying, and nothing has happened. So why am I mad? What am I crying? And I would sit there like, well, what happened? I would be at work by myself, just mad. And I was like, and my body just started, and spirit just started whispering, you know what? This isn't for you. And so I stopped birth control. My headaches went away. At first I had like a little issue with like acne, but then I started to do like the flow vitamins.
Nice.
And I'm also big on like my women's one a days and my elderberries and my water and my sea moss and my black seed oil. And so all those things helped me on that journey. Now, I often speak about like I used to have PCOS. And I say used to because a lot of times when a doctor diagnoses us with things, that disease doesn't have us, okay? We have the disease, which means I am in control.
Yes.
And so I say had, because I've adjusted my body with natural products that I don't have those things anymore.
Yes.
And so when I love natural products because our ancestors used, we didn't have, Motrin and Tylenol and, birth control, all of these things, right? We had natural remedies, right? Our great grandmothers would go in the back, put some herbs together, mush it up, give it to you in a tea. And so anything that we are dealing with in our bodies can be healed naturally. And so I'm big on like my African black soaps. I wear natural deodorants, like a turmeric. I wear black seed deodorant. I use like charcoal toothpaste. My shea butters are all natural, almond oil, grapeseed oil, my coconut oils. So everything I use for my body is natural, including my hair and all of those things, because again, there are natural ways for us to heal our bodies. And what works for some other cultures or some people isn't what necessarily will work for us. And so we have to figure out what our wavelength is, what we need to do for ourselves.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And with that, I want to transition you you use all of these products, and now you've come over to selling these products.
Yeah.
So please tell us about the products that you sell.
So I sell oils. So I have like perfume oils that I sell. I like perfume oils because they're more natural. You just put a few dabs and they're very strong. I noticed that like a week later I could find something that I wore and it'll still have that oil scent. And it's when it absorbs into my skin, it's so much better. I make natural with body butters. I don't have one here, but I have a female scent and a male scent.
Nice.
And they're whipped with shea butter, grapeseed oil, almond oil, and coconut oil, and I infuse it with scents. I make beard oils for men, all organic natural oils. I sell sages, dragon's blood, white sage. My new favorite is black sage. I love black sage because I love the color black as well. So I went to one of my vendors, and she had some. And I was like, "Ooh, what is that?" And she gave me some. I took it home. I tried it. I loved it. It fueled my own spirit. I'm big on Florida water. I sell African jewelry, so I sell like brass jewelry. I sell earrings like I have here, made out of brass as well as bone.
Nice.
I sell like feather earrings because I love me a good earring, honey.
Yes.
And I love my crystals. And I sell my waist beads, so I'm big on African waist beads. I like waist beads because I like the feminine part of it. It helps us to like our divine feminine. It helps us embrace that. It aids with like my weight loss. Because sometimes we'll get on the scale and we're not losing pounds, but we're losing inches, and it makes us want to like give up. But then I would get up in the morning and I notice my waist beads are no longer waist and they're in my hips, so I'm doing something right. And plus I just like the way it makes me feel as a woman. Like I practice like womb dancing.
Nice.
And so, you get in the mirror and you wear whatever, like, I say set your soul on fire, whatever you feel very like sexy in, right? And I have my waist beads and I turn on my favorite music and I just kind of like, wind my hips and, open up my root chakra, do some womb healing. And I've read that, in African cultures, women wear waist beads and they also add charms to it to tell like men, like if they're, let's say they're fertility, like they're ovulating, right? They'll have like some type of, fertility symbol. I also read that in certain cultures in Africa, when a girl starts her first period, right? They'll have like a whole ceremony and then they'll tie on the waist beads. So it's like a spiritual part of it too. Yes. And so too, like my waist beads recently like came off, right? And so like I lost weight and then the first set that I've had, they like slid off. And so I took those beads and like I buried them, right? Because for me, not only is it that like I shedded some dead weight, I also shedded these beads and whatever energy or feelings or whatever it is that those beads are holding. And so I just laid that to rest. So for me, that is why I love waist beads. My waist beads are crafted in Kenya. They can fit up to a 50-inch waist. They tie on, so they're like semi-permanent. So unless you cut them off yourself or they fall off, then you'll always have them on. I've had some that I've worn for years. Again, that first set I think I had it for maybe 2 years. And so I just like it. I like the way it makes me feel.
I love it.
And my products, period. How I got to them is just because I started to use, I would buy things from other people and things like that. And I started to fall in love with those things. And so for me, like the Black Witch's Brew, I think of like a brew, like a cauldron, right? You put it's multiple things, right, in a cauldron, and you never know what's gonna come out of that cauldron, right? And so, and then I'm Black, so there's that. But it's just it's me, it's me on the table. It's all the things that I love and all of the things that have led me to this space that I am currently in. And I know we were talking about like, what type of witch we are and things like that, and, different like hoodoo and voodoo. I always have kind of wondered because I would get readings. So I don't do tarot. I have had readings done. And whenever I would get them done, they always told me that I was supposed to teach something.
Nice.
Yeah. And so afterwards, I would sit there like, okay, well, what am I supposed to teach?
Right.
Because they, again, with the cards, they tell you, but they don't tell you. You got to go and do your research. Right? You got to sit and wait. And so then I had a spiritual reading done. So I had a Reiki session. And I always talk about this Reiki session.
How was that? Oh, my God.
Ooh. Okay. I literally go to people and I tell people about this Reiki session because for me, that session was life-changing.
Nice.
And I say I was on my spiritual journey again for 5 years, right? But I want to say, and in that 5 year, again, I had 2 kids. I got married. I got divorced. I bought a house. So many things happened in those 5 years. And at the end of 2020, especially with COVID, right, I got to a place where it was like I didn't really, it was like I was stuck in a way. And I was like, okay, I don't know what the problem is. Okay, I'm journaling, I'm doing the work, I'm talking to people, I'm praying, I'm meditating. Again, I'm doing the work. What's wrong? And I started to feel spirit say to me, Reiki.
Nice.
And so I'm Facebook friends with this young lady, and I was always really drawn to her page, but she makes beautiful crystal jewelry, and her energy is amazing. You can just tell from social media that her energy is amazing. And so one day I was like, you know what, I'm going to set this money aside and I'm going to have me a Reiki session.
Nice.
And so I'll never forget that day. I got up, I hopped in my car, I was driving, and I was like, well, I'm about to spend this money. I don't know what it's going to be like, and I was just very like, I was calm about it, but then I was also like, it's just probably going to be, a session. And so I went, and then when I first got there, like, she gave me some tea, and I put my phone away, and I read a book. She also offers like coloring books. And then like she came into the space and she saged. I got on the table, and I started to go through the Reiki session. And all I remember is laying on the table, and she had me breathing, like, our regular like yoga breathing. And then she said to turn into like a Darth Vader breathe, right? Where it's like you're like, your breathing gets really deep.
Yeah.
And I remember her saying, okay, we're gonna like get on the elevator. We're gonna count down the elevator from 12, and then we're gonna get off the elevator, and when we get off the elevator, walking into a forest, right? Okay. And so you're just laying there, eyes closed, breathing. And again, I'm thinking about these things. And she said, now I want you to see yourself as a seed rooted into the ground. And somehow, when I got to seed rooted into the ground, I was crying.
Wow.
And in hindsight, like I was like, I don't really know why I was crying, but there was energy in my body subconsciously, and that's what I feel Reiki is. It removes the subconscious energy from our body. So it's things that may be like trauma, or things that we subconsciously going about our day acting like it don't exist, right? And as she moved like down my chakras, I would cry in certain areas a whole lot more. To the point where I was doing like the ugly cry. And it was just like I could literally feel the energy leaving my body. And then I got to a point, she has a window in the room, and she was like, this day was very gloomy. Okay. It was like a rainy, gloomy day. And she said, I just want you to like tilt your head to the left, and I want you to look, because the sun was literally beaming into the room.
Wow.
And she said, I've never had that happen before. And so after I finished my session, like I got up, and again, I'm not a hugger. Okay? Yeah. I folded into this lady.
That's
like
beautiful.
I felt like I almost went back to like what I felt as a child.
Yeah.
And I hugged her and I cried, and it was amazing.
That's beautiful.
And then after that, like she kind of sat and talked to me, and I don't know if that, but I don't know if it's as a healer, like she was able to tell me some of the things that I needed to work on based upon what came out of my body.
Yeah.
And so I really took that. And so then I knew what I needed to really dig into, which then led me to my ancestors' journey. Nice. It led me to a reader, a spiritual reader, who you can go to her. She does like spirit guide readings. If you have somebody that wants to connect with you, she does that as well. She told me who my spirit guide was, what my spirit guide wanted from me. And that again led me to making like my ancestors' altar. Yeah. And it also led me to like talking to like my grandmother and my dad, my mom, and just asking them questions like, what was my great grandmother like? What was my grandmother like? What was her life like? And it helped me understand my role and who I am, because then that led me to like your ancestral trauma, right? Because we don't realize that we have so many similarities to our parents, right? Yes. And the physical similarities, emotional similarities, some of the things that our parents go through, right? They become a part of us, right? And when you start to heal yourself, you also heal those around you, and you also heal like your ancestral lineage, right? Because and again, sometimes when we're on our healing journey, we want to go tell everybody, this is what you need to do. But everybody has their own journey. Yes. Right? So healing yourself heals those around you. And also like my ancestral altar is all women. Right? Nice. Because I am just in a space where I am practicing like my divine femininity, right? Yes. And so talking to them and receiving their downloads and hearing their stories and talking to my family members and just finding out who they were as women and the things that they went through, which in so many ways ended up being things that I went through. Wow. And so I have 2 daughters, and naturally when we talk about generational traumas, I want it to stop. Okay. With me. Yes. Okay. And 2, we as women, we pass a lot of things down through the womb, right? And so, we're in there for 9 months, enduring every emotion they have, every traumatic experience they have, receiving their energy, and then we come into the world, and we in so many ways deal with those same things. And then same with men and for women, obviously, because we have boys and girls, but they also have things that they dealt with or they receive from the womb. Yes. And so again, I talk about just making sure it stops like with you. So, that's beautiful. Yeah. That is absolutely beautiful. I highly recommend Reiki. Again, I don't ever tell people what to do. I just talk about my experience. Yes. And I don't know if you will have the same experience, but I just know the experience that I had. Yeah. I tell people child was like better than sex. Okay. It was great. Like I left that feeling so open. It was so freeing. It was, I just felt when I left there, I could feel like my angels, my spirit guides, my ancestors, God, was like rooting for me. Yes. Like I am so proud of you. And it is true that when you stated earlier, when you do the work, okay, and you listen and you receive God's message and you receive your spirit guide's message and your ancestors, that is how you get blessed. Yes. Because a lot of times we go to God or to the universe or our ancestors and we say, I want. That's not how this works. They go hand in hand. They do the work and you do the work. And when you do that, it comes together. Yes. I love it. I definitely
have been interested in Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard both negative and positive experiences from it,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't let other people's experiences
Mm-hmm.
define whether I'm going to try it or not,
Mm-hmm.
because as you said, everybody has their own journey.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely interested. I have not met anyone that I trusted enough to perform Reiki on me for me to try it, but that is a beautiful experience.
And that's why I'm big on like listening to spirit and listening to your body and listening to your spirit guides, because your next step will be revealed to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we receive our downloads, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I you know, spiritually, a lot of times we wake up at like between like 3 and 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you wake up at 3 and 5, sometimes it's not just going to the bathroom.
Right.
You know, sometimes spirit has a message for you, and in those moments is how you receive it. Like last night, I woke up at like 3:22, and I received a lot of things, but literally when I went back to sleep and I woke up, I didn't even remember any of it. But at some point, it's gonna come back.
Yes.
Like it's gonna, and that's just really like how it works, you know.
Yes.
So if your intuition, spirit guide, as you keep going on your journey, it will reveal when you're ready for it, when your vibration is ready for that experience.
Yes.
Because for me, spirituality and Reiki and all the thing and meditation, for me, it's more it's more releasing than like therapy for me. Yes. Now again, I'm a big advocate for therapy when you find the right therapist or life coach or spiritual advisor that works for you.
Yes.
But all of those, even with those, you still have to do the work.
Yes.
So going and talk to somebody for an hour, yeah, you're releasing it, but what are you doing after?
Okay.
So when it's your time, or when it's your time to try these things, you will receive those downloads, those messages.
Yes.
So just honoring that, and like again, you could be in there frying some chicken, you know, and it's gonna pop up like, okay, it's time. You be like, yeah, you right, okay, I got it, I receive it.
Yes. And talking about ancestral lineage, I have found that I don't know much about my ancestors. And like on my father's side, the only two living people are my father and my aunt. And so they never spoke about their upbringing or who was around them and everything. And it was literally my grandmother, my aunts and uncles, and my dad, and then my great uncle. And that was it. I don't know anybody else besides that. And then my dad's father is different from my uncle's and aunt's fathers. So, and I'm just now realizing that I have to split up my tree. And it's like, I don't even know who I was researching, and that wasn't my blood. Like, so now it's just me trying to find my way. And then on my mother's side, I have more history and background. And then I found out, like, my grandmother practiced witchcraft and her mother practiced witchcraft. And like, we have some very powerful women on my mother's side of the family. And I'm like, okay, this is starting to make sense now. And just some of the situations that I've gone through, I see the pattern. And it's like, okay, all of it's making sense. So just like they say in history class, know your history so you don't repeat it in the future. Or you can repeat it in the future. Either way it goes, you need to know your history in order to move forward. And that goes with family lineage, that goes with everything. And hindsight is 2020. You can look at your ancestors' lives and you can start to make sense of yours and not make those same mistakes and go down those same paths. And it's best if you learn through other people, and especially if it's your bloodline, because it's your bloodline.
Because when I started my ancestral lineage, I use Ancestry, and on my mom's side, you know, it's like booming like an 808, you know. But then on my dad's side, for like a week, I only had like my dad, his mom, his stepdad, his dad, and then his sibling. And that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just kept researching. And then I found out so much more, like about my grandmother, about her mother and her father. I found like my great aunts and uncles. And then I found like on my mom's side, like my great grandmother. She did she used to walk with Martin Luther King, and nice. She was very fair skinned.
Yeah.
And so she used to be able to go into like the meetings, right, mm-hmm. and find out the information, right, nice. And then she was able to help like the enslaved people or people who were, you know, on their journey, and she would help out with that. And she was basically like a civil rights. She was part of the civil rights movement. And so for me, that was very exciting and very insightful. And so again, when you find out about your ancestral lineage or you key pieces, then you're able to go and talk to other family members and say, okay, is this true? What was that like? What was she like? You know? And for me, it was just like, wow, I do come from I have great blood and I have great DNA that runs through me. Yes. You know? And for me, that was just very helpful again on my journey. Now I for quite some time, because every time I get a reading, people always tell me not to like doubt my power. Nice. Right? And they always say like I have a very powerful gift. Mm-hmm. And you need to use it. And I think what I've learned about myself is my gift that I give the world is I have like my dreams. I receive my messages. But for me, it's just healing. Yes. Right? I think when we talk about African spirituality and being a witch and things of that nature, people think like you don't like love God. You know? Yes. No, I love God. Again, I felt His presence, and I just know that the only thing that I want to do is to put good out into the world. Yes. I just want to be a person that loves people, right? That you know, because I speak about you never know what that last interaction can do for a person. Yes. Right? Yes. So when I go out into the world, I just want to put good out into the world. I just want to do right by people. Yes. I want to do right by myself. Yes. I want to do right for my children. Yes. And I just always want people to feel loved, and I want them to feel like, hey, this may help you, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess in so many ways, my healing is just about teaching people, and teaching people that doing the work, putting yourself out there, and again, whatever religious background that you have or spiritual background that you have, just following that calling. Yes. Listening to yourself, loving yourself. Yes. Because self-love is, they say love is the purest form of energy, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you love yourself, then other people know how to love you properly. Oh my goodness. Because then we teach people how to treat us. Yes. Right? So if you don't love yourself, and I've had my moments, like when I was younger, I didn't always love myself. Mm-hmm. And so I tolerated things, or I put up with things, or I treated people a certain type of way because I wasn't in the best space, right? But once I got to a place of loving myself, of knowing myself, of figuring out what my purpose is in life, that changed the people around me. It changed my circle. I speak about my divorce. I had 2 children, 10 months apart, back to back. My youngest daughter, she was a preemie, a 28-weeker. And then I got, all in 1 year, I got engaged. I had a baby at 28 weeks. My daughter was in the hospital for 46 days, all while planning a wedding. Okay. And then I got married that same year in October. Wow. And I speak about this all the time. Literally the week after my wedding, I felt so lost. Wow. And it was because I felt like I put myself into autopilot, right? Yeah. And I didn't work through the things, and not realizing too that I dealt with a lot of postpartum depression from that my baby being born at 28 weeks.
Yes.
And so I just kind of like dive myself into being there for her every day, planning the wedding, getting married, and then after all of that, my cup was empty.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm looking around, and there was nobody else pouring into my cup, and I'm pouring into everybody. I'm a mama, I'm a wife, I'm pouring,
right.
I'm pouring, and now I'm depleted, and I'm working full time. And so I just got to a point where when I felt like my second stage in my spiritual journey was when I like got divorced, right? That year for me, I learned like who my circle was. I learned and it's crazy because it's not people that you would think, right? It was people that showed up for me, people I never even had a relationship really with before that, right? But they showed up for me. They showed up for my children. People listened to me. People let me cry. People let me reflect. People let me be raw. People let me be mad, you know. And for that, after that, I now know who my circle is. And it went from this to this. Okay. And I'm you know, in hindsight, again, I say what is for you will be for you, and what isn't, it will leave. Because sometimes we can surround ourselves with 30, 40 people, and of those 30 or 40 people, only 5 of them people really care about you.
Yes.
And so for me, it was like it was healing.
Yeah.
Right. It was happiness. It was self-awareness. It was growth. Okay. I found out my strength during that time.
Yeah.
And I found out what the real meaning, right, of being a mom is.
Yes.
Because I know sometimes as women, you know, we get into relationships and we put our all into it, right? And we got to be there for the man, we got to be there for the kids, and then it's like you're torn, right? I know I felt torn.
Yes.
And it just helped me get into like being a mom and learning my daughters. You know what I'm saying? And in so many ways, healing them emotionally, right? And being there for them. And being a mother, for me, I believe is the biggest blessing that I've ever received in my life. Because had it not been for my daughters, I don't think I would have made it into the space that I am in now. Yes. Because they keep me going, right? They push me forward. They make me want to be better in life, right? Yes. And so don't get me wrong, it have its rough days. Okay. Yeah. But it is. I know that was God shining his light and love on me when he gave me my daughters.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
That is beautiful.
Yes.
Oh, I love it. Shout out to the kids.
Yes, shout out to the kids.
Okay, and speaking of being a mommy, do you have any advice for mommies wanting to start a business?
I do. So I work full time.
Okay.
And I'm a single mom. I have my kids majority of the time. And I run my business on the side. Wow. So what I found is I use my full-time job, right, as my, you know, how I make my business money, right? That's how I buy my products. That's how I do the things. So for me, everything is about balance. So I like to get up. You know, when I get up, I do my meditation. I get my teas. My children get up. We always hug. We have our good mornings. You know, we prepare ourselves mentally for the day. And then I go to work. And I have a great support system. My grandmother is amazing. Nice. She comes over all the time. She loves my children. In some ways, I feel like she the mama too. You know? And she helps me raise my children. Yeah. And then I get off work, and then I spend that time with my children. And then when my children go to bed, I turn on my music. I meditate. And I just start to brainstorm, or I start to work on my products. So everything for me is all about balance. Yeah. What is if it's important to you, you will find the time. Yes. And so I'm just big on holding space for my kids, holding space for myself, holding space for my finances, yes, and holding space for my business. Because I've learned that my business, I've learned that spirituality, that is my passion. It is what fuels me. It's what makes me happy. And I also, I'm a creative. I love music. I sing. You know, my dad, you know, he is a, you know, guitarist. And I just love music.
Yeah.
And I love creating things. I love to paint. I love to draw. And so I just always do things that fuel my passion.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard. Don't get me wrong. It is hard some days being a mama and having to do all these things. But where there's a will, there's a way.
Okay.
And so I'm just big on finding the time, even if it's just an hour.
Yes.
Right? And I give myself space to know every day I'm not going to be able to do all the things that I want to do.
Yeah.
Right? And some days, no, I'm not going to be the best mom. No, today I can't make a whole chicken and potatoes. Right? Maybe today we're going to have pizza.
Okay.
And it's going to be okay.
Yes.
So, and don't be hard on yourself about
Yes.
it, you know. So I'm very big on that as well. I think sometimes as mothers, we apply so much pressure,
Oh my
right?
goodness. Yes.
And those kids, they don't even want all that. Just to be with you.
Yes.
Just for you to give them a hug. Just for you to, look, mommy, I drew a picture. Just for
Yes.
you to be excited. Okay?
Yes.
That's all it takes for them.
Yes.
Right? And also to surround yourself with other, what I call mothers.
Yes.
Right? Because you can have those friends, girl, let's go wild, lead a kid. No. I won't. Sometimes I do want to lead a kid. But I also appreciate having the people that's like, no, girl, bring your kids, you know, and having that space to do so. And people loving my children as well, you know. My children are, what I say, that they embody who I was as a child.
Yes.
I was very loving, very sweet. I was always happy to see people. I loved family. And my children are just like that. And people get so wrapped up in them like, oh, they just love me. Girl, they love everybody. They at the grocery store, Happy Mother's Day! To random strangers, okay? They love everybody.
I love it.
But for me, it makes me happy because I know that I have instilled love and light into them and peace into them.
Yes.
You know? And so there's sometimes I'm doing my yoga and my meditation. Mommy, I want to join. Okay, now we got to see. We're going to be quiet. They last for all of 2 minutes. But at least they try.
Yes.
You know? And I think I want them to get to a point too where, you know, I can teach them, really teach them. Again, my daughters are, both of them are 4 for right now, but my other daughter is about to be 5 next month. But I want them to get to a place where they can practice mindfulness.
Yes.
And they can practice spirituality.
Yes.
And you know, I pray. You know, I pray with them. We say our prayers every night. We talk to God. You know.
I love it.
And so I want them to choose whatever works for them. But I'm big on spirituality and loving God going hand in hand. Yes. I just don't necessarily practice a religion.
Yes.
Right.
Same.
Spirituality is just being what God wants me to be. I am created in His image.
Yes.
And so that is what I teach my children.
Yes.
And to love everybody. Good, bad, and different, no matter what they choose. Love people.
Yes. Because love is the most potent and powerful.
It is. It is the most purest form of energy. And I think, and again, I'm not like, I don't view, I'm not, you know, negative on religion. I just don't like necessarily that with some religions, it's like we are looking down on people or we're judging people for their choices in life, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, spirituality and being a spiritualist, it's just loving people wherever they are.
Yes.
And being there for people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yes. Well, that wraps up all my questions, and this was such a beautiful conversation because I can go on and on. Like
this was really great. I mean, I just felt like we were able to just, you know, talk about things, and I hope in so many ways, you know, change the mindset on certain, you know, negative things people view about spirituality or being a witch or, you know, voodoo or, you know, it's just about aligning yourself with your purpose and who you are and what God and the universe and your ancestors and your spirit guides want for you, and just listening to your intuition, trusting your heart, trusting yourself, loving yourself, self-love, self-care.
You cannot say it enough.
Boundaries.
That's the big one.
Yes. So, so peace and blessings to all of you. And thank you for being with us, and thank you for having me. This was great.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, yeah, I love. It's true. You can talk about spirituality all day.
Okay,
but
seriously.
This was great. Yes.
All right, y'all have a good one.
Yes, bye.
And I will put all of her socials and everything down below.
Thank
so
you.
Follow her on social media.
Yeah.
Buy her products, and I'll put her website down below too.
Thank you. Bye.